The train is about to move. If you are currently standing in one of the cars, please be seated. If you are walking through the train, please use the nearest handrail for support. In the event of an emergency, Blue Ridge Scenic Railway staff will provide information using the PA system. Car hosts will guide all activities within your individual rail car. Again, the train is about to move, and please be seated. If you're walking through the train, please use the nearest handrail for support. After the train has begun to move, you may walk through the train to visit our concession car.
I'll tell you a little bit of history about the train while we're waiting. This train was started in 1998 by a group of volunteers who saw an opportunity after the Nashville Railroad shut down their operation here in the 1980s.
So sure going that way.
The tracks were left unused for over 10 years, and we've been running now since 1998. And a little further down the line, I'll tell you a little more about the car you're riding on. Welcome aboard the Blue Ridge Scenic Railway as we step back in time. This is a gorgeous 26-mile round trip down the Toccoa River Valley to the historic towns in the Fayetteville, Georgia, and Copperfield, Tennessee. We want your trip to be enjoyable, informative, and safe. Please sit back and relax while I review our safety guidelines and general information. If you are riding in one of our open-air cars, please keep your head and arms inside the train at all times. Do not reach out to grab any branches that may be close to the train. Keep the aisles and area around your seat clear so that other passengers may safely pass through the car, and please do not stand in the aisles. Watch your footing as you walk through the train, especially between the cars. Please wear your shoes at all times, and if they have laces, please keep them tied. Please keep your feet off the seats to help preserve these historic rail cars. Children under the age of 13 must be accompanied by an adult 18 years of age or older when walking through the train, and no running, please. There are restrooms located in most of the coaches. Cars 332 and 405, located just south of the concession car, have diaper changing stations. Please ask your car host for directions. The Blue Ridge Scenic Railway is a smoke-free and electronic cigarette-free environment. This includes the depot, train, and boarding areas at both ends of the line. Your attention to these guidelines and your cooperation with our safety crew will ensure that your trip will be memorable and safe. Our concession car, located in the middle of the train, is open and selling refreshments and souvenirs. We also have wine and beer available, and our bartender will be happy to make a mimosa for your enjoyment. I promise the scenery is going to improve real soon. We will be rolling through the woods coming up in just a moment. So it is very possible you can see wildlife. We also see deer and wild turkeys. We saw 3 wild turkeys this morning on the trip that were all puffed up with all their feathers up. And when we get to the river in a few minutes, we always see Canada geese. Sometimes we see great blue herons,
we spot bald eagles perched over the river watching the track. I believe it was 3 times I noticed the bald eagle spotted one during March. So hopefully today will be another day. We won't see bears for the day. They are plentiful in North Georgia. Black bears don't like the sound that the train makes. They won't stay near the noise. If you were to go on a hike in the woods, though, you could encounter a black bear. They are likely to run from you rather than attack, with one exception. Don't want to go near the cubs, because whenever there are cubs in the wild, there is also a very protective mama bear close by. If you say right or left today, it will be as though you're facing the way you're traveling. Coming up on the right, there's a small horse farm. And I only call it to your attention because if you see horses there in the pasture, I wanted you to know they're not just average horses, they're very special. You'll be able to tell that they are outstanding in their field. There was one this morning that went some hawks in this town just now. They don't go in there. There really are nice horses there, and the jokes don't get any better than that. There used to be a pony there in the field every day. One day he was gone though, and never saw it again. So I asked the owner what happened to the pony. He said, oh, that pony got sick. He had a sore throat. And I said, but he was just a little horse. That checked on him though, he's now in stable condition.
Previously used to travel to Murphy, North Carolina, and then on into Asheville, North Carolina. This track was abandoned around 1983. It is now used to reposition the train car or turn the train around.
That's my track right here beside us, going off into the woods, meets another side track and forms a Y-shaped intersection like the top of the rail Y. We still use it. Not to go to North Carolina, but just to turn this train around if it's ever necessary because it's the only way we could. We would go down this first leg, go all the way past the intersection point, and then back the whole train up the second side of the Y, coming back home up ahead facing the other direction of the main train. Just ahead, beside the track, somebody has left an eyesore. There's an old porta potty here, but not for its original use. Before the knowledge it was being used as a deer blind. And here comes the second leg of the Y Mercy Junction sidetrack. Just ahead on the left, we're going to pass in a moment, a small farm. The house has been remodeled, so it doesn't look as old, but if you look at the other buildings, you can tell this farm's been there a very long time. Back during the Depression years, as the Panger family began raising their children there, Mr. Panger worked for the L&N, the Louisville and Nashville Railroad that ran this track there. During the Depression years, he was paid 50 cents a day. And on that salary, raised 11 children in this little farmhouse. One of those 11 children, this Wanda Painter that grew up there, is now almost 90 years old, and she we get to the river in a little bit, you'll probably notice that it's doing something that's unusual. It's flowing toward the north. Most rivers in the northern hemisphere around the world don't flow northward. A few do. This is one of the exceptions. And here the reason is very simple. We are gradually going downhill all the way to Tennessee, so the water's just flowing downhill. Even though here that's northward.
Now that we are underway and have reached our top cruising speed of 10 to 15 miles an hour, it will take about 1 hour to travel the 13 track miles to McKaysville.
Woo! We might hit 15 miles an hour. You better hold on tight. There is a reason we go so slowly, and it's not just the length of the ride, I promise you. There still is a federal speed limit that is imposed on these curvy tracks for passenger trains of 15 miles an hour maximum. And it works out to our advantage because if we ever have to stop unexpectedly, say for example, after night before storms, sometimes we have trees in the morning across the track. We can stop at this speed very smoothly and safely, and we carry chainsaws to move the trees quickly. And there's nobody out here to give us a ticket for speeding. If we get to town way sooner than we should, the engineer will have to answer for it because the engines are tracked by GPS location.
On the right side of the train, look for telegraph poles. The telegraph and Morse code were used by railroads to communicate between stations to give orders to train crews. On the left side of the train, look for white posts with numbers on them. The numbers note the track miles from that point to Louisville, Kentucky, which was the home office of the L&N Railroad.
L&N, Louisville and Nashville, ran this route beginning in 1905 with both passenger and freight service. They ended, after having as many as a dozen trains a day in their heyday, they ended in the 1980s with just the freight operation still going. They had started running in 1905 after taking over this track from the original layers of the track, which was the Marietta and North Georgia Railroad. And the L&N track system was extensive. It stretched all the way from the Gulf Coast north to Chicago. This particular track we're on today was the L&N branch from Atlanta to Cincinnati.
It is known as the Ocoee River.
And across here from the sheet, your first view of the Toccoa River. This river comes through a hydroelectric dam in Blue Ridge that was built there in the 1930s to produce electricity by the Tennessee Valley Authority. And it is still in use today, producing electricity. At some point every day, they release water through the turbine. The water downstream rises several feet, and they're producing electricity for this area. I can always tell by this big boulder that's in the middle of the river right up here whether or not we have regular depth of about an average of 2.5 feet, or whether or not the water is up and high because of generating power. And I believe right now we're at regular depth, and if we can see this rock, I'll know for sure. Yep, it is visible. When they generate power, that rock is completely submerged by water. It rises that much. But having the normal depth is good for sightseeing because we get the best view of the river when it's at its normal depth. We'll get to see all the rocks. This river changes a lot. It's very calm here. When it is Tennessee, it changes its name to Ocoee. And it's to a river with class 4 whitewater rapids. In fact, if you remember the 96 Olympics being in Atlanta, you might know the name Ocoee. It was the section of the river downstream where the rapids are that was used for the Olympic kayak event in 1996. The world's best kayakers competed on this river for their Olympic medals down at the rapids. And you can still take a raft ride down that Olympics course. It's quite an adventure. If you get tossed out in the water, it will be very refreshing. Even on the hottest day of summer, this river never gets above 40 degrees. It's interesting when we spot the Canada geese like we just saw back there. This time of year you will almost always see two together. They are paired up because spring brings that on, and soon we'll be seeing a lot of little goslings. Oh, wild turkey on the right. Here on the other side of the river, you will notice a golf course. This is the only 18-hole course in this whole town. It's called Old Tacoma Farms. It is a beautiful course, and anyone can play there. But they do have an unusual rule. If you play there, they require that you bring 2 pairs of pants, just in case you get cold in one. Just a moment, we're going to pass through a historic area known as Curtis Switch. Here at Curtis Switch, years ago, there was a side track beside the main track that allowed trains to pass each other. They would wait while others came by. And back in the 1920s, there was a terrible accident here. This is not a joke. An L&N freight train that was supposed to pull over and wait didn't pull over off the main track, and it continued on and caused a head-on collision with an oncoming freight train right at this spot. We don't have to worry about any traffic on the tracks today. We are the only train on these tracks and have been for many years. If we weren't running, these tracks would be completely abandoned. And this field looks abandoned, but every couple of years the farmer grows such a tremendous crop of corn that it's amazing. It's a very expensive kind of corn called pirate corn. It sells for a buccaneer. And they sold it all to the U.S. military. They wanted to buy it because it was full of kernels. And I promise those are the corniest jokes I'm going to project to you. Another true thing about Curtis Switch that was made possible because of the old bridge, not the highway bridge. There's the remains of an old metal bridge on the right, just past the highway bridge, that was here before the highway bridge was built in the 1950s. This old bridge dates back to horse and wagon days. And since there was a place here to get across the river, this was a flag stop for L&N passenger trains. If you wanted to ride back then in the 30s and 40s, all you had to do was come here and stand by the train, flag down the next passenger train that came by, and they would stop here and pick you up right from the side of the tracks. You could ride into town then for 15 cents. Which isn't much unless you're working for 50 cents a day, and it is expensive. I'm sure we have some people who would like to fish for. And this river right now is pretty low. It does have a lot of trout in it. In addition to the natural fish here, the state of Georgia stocks this river with brown and rainbow trout twice a year. And right up ahead, I know you won't believe this, but I have a picture. I'll come by and let you see it to prove it's true. Right up ahead, in February of 2021, a fisherman successfully landed an 18-pound brown trout. near the spot where this fellow's fishing right now. It is by far the biggest trout I have ever seen. I was told that it was very near the state record, but that the state record beat it by a couple of pounds. Came out of the Chattahoochee River, a much larger river. This is where the 18 pounder is caught.
What up? Pound it. Oh, yeah.
Just ahead on the right, if you look closely in this field, you might spot Bigfoot. It was a disappointment when I first saw it, though. Bigfoot is a lot shorter than I always thought he would be. Yes, do you know how Bigfoot tests time? He uses a Sasquatch. built fish trap here that is from 500 plus years ago. And I will tell you when to look, and you'll hear more about it in just a moment. What it is a stack of rocks in the shape of a large V with both sides beside the V dammed up. So the only way through years ago when it was catching fish was for the fish to swim through the V as they were herded downstream. And the Native Americans would collect the fish there in baskets.
Every day at 5 a.m. It's so loud. At least this one, you know, comes at a certain time.
Still suck here.
You get so used to it.
We are now approaching a Native American fish trap, one of 5 located in Kaysville. The Native American fish traps were made by stacking rocks in the form of the letter V, always pointing downstream. Native Americans would herd the fish by making noise splashing the water above the trap, moving the fish downstream to be caught at the point of the V in baskets or nets. The Georgia Department of Natural Resources estimates the traps to be over 500 years old, predated the Cherokee and Creek nations who also used these traps.
The way to see it is to look for the green deck on the opposite bank, and right in front of the green deck it will be obvious.
That's courteous.
That big
Southern Hospital.
V shape in the middle of the river. That go around the fish, right where that goose is sitting. And that is looked after now by the scout troop. If they find the rocks and they're knocked off, they put them back in the correct position to maintain it.
I just say that is awesome. Huge fire pit, chimney.
Oh, they're on the opposite bank. It's the first native flame azalea that I've seen this year so far. That bright orange shrub over there. Here in the North Georgia mountains, we have wild flame azaleas growing all over the highlands. Soon there'll be a lot of them blooming.
Never buy that tree. You guys are blue. Look. You guys are blue.
Where?
There, by the tree. That's the tree.
Clearing stuff
By the
out.
tree?
Yeah. The tree. Right there.
Oh, bad temple.
Oh, we're by Dayton.
I was telling you some history, I'll tell you a little bit. This particular car that you're riding on today was built in 1955 by a Ford company and delivered that here to the Long Island Railroad in New York. We have changed the seats and changed the windows, but we didn't change the ceiling. And it still has the design on it where every
see the
little
house.
circle is a state seal of the state of New York. It identifies it
How
as
if
a
I
New
could
York.
walk to
Now, some of those houses back there were pretty luxurious that you could rent, but I've got a place if you would rather rough it. This little brown cabin here on the right is off-grid. It has no electricity and no running water. And there's no way to drive to it. So you stay there, you have to ride passenger train that was famous in its day that carried passengers between Chicago and Los Angeles, California. So many celebrities rode that train in the 40s and 50s. It was known as the Train of the Stars. And our engines are also from the 50s. They are diesel electric, meaning they burn diesel fuel but only enough to run a big electric generator. We're actually being propelled up the tracks by the electricity that those generators produce and send power to direct drive electric motors attached to the driveway. Electric motors that are directly attached require no drivetrain, so we have no transmission and no drive shaft. And they produce tremendous torque, which it takes to get something this heavy moving.
Check that out. Oh, shit.
I mean, really. I don't know what area this is. This board is. Somehow we stayed up with all of these.
Whoop, sounds out.
These are the kind we need to bring the whole family. Look along the railroad. Go up. Go that one, baby. I had one of those steam tables. If you saw it there. What is the average people out here? Sure, you saw it there.
Across the river is Horseshoe Bend Park. This is a public park used for fishing, swimming, and picnic.
There is public access here if you would like to fish. This is a good place to come to. You have to have a temporary license, but you can not have even in Walmart.
for a very important safety announcement. We are approaching a steel railroad bridge which is very close to the train. All passengers in the open-air cars, please be seated until we reach the other side of the bridge. Keep your head and arms inside the train. Car hosts, please check your vestibules.
A few years ago, when people were using selfie sticks with their phones, some did lose some phones here at this bridge. We are just about to cross. Thank you. Feel free now to move about as you would like. I didn't want anybody to be unnecessarily nervous about crossing, so I didn't mention earlier that that bridge is 120 years old. It really is. It's not a joke. But of course we do regular safety checks. And it surprises people to learn that we do at least 2 safety checks of that bridge every time that this train runs. I am very pleased to report we just successfully completed this trip's first safety check. Thanks for taking part.
That's awesome.
In just a few minutes, we will be arriving on the tracks next to the town, but it's actually 2 towns. Daysville, Georgia, and Cumberville, Tennessee, that are split by the state line. When the train comes to a stop, the state line will be running through the car right in front of us. You'll be able to see as you walk around when the car stops. And up the sidewalk on this side that the town is on, there's a sign and it's painted across the sidewalk that shows where the line crosses. I'll also be able to point out some landmarks in town to show you where the state line cuts through the middle of town. It actually cuts through some of the businesses here. So if you had a business that was half in Georgia and half in Tennessee, where would you be expected to pay your taxes? Here, they decide that based on where the business's front door is located. It belongs to the state that has its front door.
I repeat, no one is to get off the train while we are here. We will be stopped here for about 10 minutes. That makes it an ideal time for a visit to our concession car while the train is not moving. They still have plenty of coffee, popcorn, sodas, snacks, and souvenirs. The beer and wine bar will also remain open.
Where's the Coke?
We bring over 400 people here on most trips, and on the earlier trip, the 4-hour trip, people get off and eat lunch here, so that means there's a lot of business here for restaurants. So this little town has more good restaurants than it would ordinarily. And one of them recently, a friend of mine reported he saw a very exotic menu item. One of these restaurants is serving Himalayan possum stew. He was skeptical. He asked the cook, "Where did you get a Himalayan possum?" The cook said, "We found Himalayan in the road." So if you come back, I won't recommend that you try that. Before we stop, I'm going to make a run down the aisle. Get any trash you might need to get rid of before we walk around.
garbage to throw away. Oh, there's a deer, yeah. More than one, several of them.
You're wondering about all these holes you see here in the bank. These are all groundhog holes. And we occasionally see one sticking its nose out. They have built burrows all over this hill. In fact, I call it Groundhog City. Now, as you look into town, and everybody's going to get a chance to look over here, we'll turn around in just a minute. But as you look into town, if you see the two-story building on the corner that has a yellow brick front and a red brick side diagonally that direction, that is the Copper Hill Brewery building. And where that yellow brick meets the red brick is where the state line diagonally cuts through the middle of that building. It continues on, there's a blue line actually painted on the sidewalk there. It continues on at an angle barely missing the front of the IGA grocery store, which is this big building here. You can
Oh, sure. I got it now. Oh, it's not back there. Oh, it's in there. Looks easy somehow.
are open, but will close at 4:30 p.m. very important safety announcement. We are again approaching the Steel Railroad Bridge, which is very close to the train. All passengers in the open air cars, please be seated until we reach the other side of the bridge. Your men at arms inside the train. Car host, please check your vestibule.
Tight bridge, of course, so you know how close the girders are. Just remember, it's always a much better day when we get back to Blue Ridge and have the exact same number of arms we left with. Here at the second crossing. Georgia and beside a river. Sometimes people who remember an old movie that was filmed in North Georgia years ago ask me about the movie called Deliverance. And we Georgians don't know much about that movie. We don't, I think it shows off Georgia real well. It wasn't filmed on this river, but it was filmed not far from here, east of here in Raven County, Georgia, on the Chattanooga River. It starred John Boyd and Burt Reynolds, and there was a younger fellow in it who was not a professional actor, named Billy Ridley. Billy was an 8th grader. When the movie makers visited his school and picked him out, he played a part of the banjo boy in the Yulee banjo scene. Billy couldn't really play the banjo. They made it look like that in the movie. But he actually got the role because of the way he looked, which might not be entirely coincidental. Billy still lives in Raven County, Georgia, and he did not make his living as an actor at all. For years, he worked until his retirement recently at the Clayton, Georgia Walmart store. And people visiting Clayton would stop by Walmart just to get their picture made with the banjo boy from Deliverance. He still occasionally makes public appearances. In fact, I just recently saw an announcement where he's going to be at an upcoming crime show in North Georgia, posing with folks for pictures. There will be an opening in the trees when we get right beside the fish trap. It'll give you a good chance to look at it. We'll be right in front of the green deck that's on the opposite bank. Trees open up at the last moment of the trap. Coming up on our left is going to be a big opening that we get right in front of it. There is the fish trap. There actually is another word for fish trout. It's just not in general usage. You don't hear it much. But if you do crossword puzzles, you might run into a clue sometime asking you for a four-letter word for fish trout. And the answer to that is the word weir. W-E-I-R. And now that you have that valuable information, do not let it be said this was not an educational trip. This would be an unscheduled stop. I'm not sure why, but if I hear, I'll let you know. I'm sure we won't be stopped long.
Listen to the you have my permission. Bring it on. Look at it. She's like.
The typical reason that we have an unscheduled stop, after we pass by, there is a tree that has come down over the tracks. But don't worry, we have chainsaws in the engine for that reason and some very capable crew members who are already out cutting that tree up to remove it. So we won't be here long.
Ladies and gentlemen, the reception car is now open. We do have refreshing drinks, snacks, and souvenirs. So please feel free to visit us at Sarah Street. Thank you so much.
We were fortunate though when Helene went up that it was a little east of here. You know that you're about we usually get an inch or two of snow a couple of times in January, February. I've lived here 7 years and we had one 10-inch snowfall here. That's all.
7 years. And then, but you just said there's one. See, that's my kind of deal.
Oh yeah, the ice is bad. People often ask me if the train can run when it snows, and it can, but if it snows much, people can't get to town on the road. Right? Sure.
It would have been a finger away from
Just start moving again. They've got that tree moving.
Thanks, yeah. I don't mind. A little tired.
Buffalo, and what he said to his boy when the boy was about to leave home. He said, "Bye, son." You know, the jokes going back are different, but that doesn't mean you're any better. They're still building up the hill here on the right, and these are the newest houses built in this area. That black one there has its own sawmill.
approaching Curtis Switch. The concession car will close in 10 minutes. The beer and wine bar is now closed.
Coming up on the left side, you'll be able to see this from either side you're sitting on if you look out the left side windows. We're going to go around the left-hand curve where the front half of the train will stretch out in full view in front of us all at once. And when it goes straight again and we start through the curve, if you look behind us, then you can see all the way to the back of the train. So first the front, then the back. Coming into view in just a moment. building some momentum now because we're about to start climbing the steepest hill we have to get back up to get back to Blue Ridge. So kids, now's the time if you've ever heard of a book called The Little Engine That Could, start thinking, I think I can, I think I can. Years ago, when there were freight trains going through here every day, this hill got its name called Hobo Hill because hobos would sometimes grease the rails here to slow down southbound trains. So they would have a chance to hop on and get a free ride. This is Hobo Hill. Now, this is what has slowed us down a little bit. And I always like to mention, since I know that we may have people who are